News Weekly! What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Batman News Weekly. This is episode 125, and we're going to let you know right at the start of this podcast, Clay is not in his new apartment. He is on location somewhere else, so there could be crazy technical difficulties.
Yeah, there's children running around. There are parents yelling at those children. There is internet connection issues. There is all sorts of stuff happening right now. And I am off of work for the next day, well, today and tomorrow. My
Oh,
job
nice.
went ahead and texted me and was like, "Yeah, we're going to go ahead and call tomorrow off too." And I was like, "Oh,
Sweet.
cool. So that means that like either on Saturday or Sunday we have to go in."
Yeah, that's usually
Which
how that works.
which sucks. Now, if I can convince them to let me just clock in on the Saturday instead of like clocking in an extra 8 hours on the next Monday, that would be
Yeah.
cool. Because if I clock in on Saturday, it's an immediate time and a half.
They'll probably want to
So
avoid that.
and they're gonna want to avoid that. So I'm like, no, you're making me go out here in the middle of freeze on a weekend. So
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. No, also I want to point out too is we're in our current situation. I cannot see Clay, so if there are small gaps between us talking, it's because I didn't know he stopped talking. So just FYI, in case this does seem like a weird podcast, we do have a lot to talk about though. The first thing we're going to talk about is something interesting, and I do want to get Clay's opinion on this because I was having a discussion, and Clay was a little part of it, and he was basically reading stuff, but in Discord somebody left after having a discussion about Batman, and I was called that I get too salty, which I'm going to be 100% admit I can get salty, but usually I was not salty in this situation, but I do get salty when it comes to video games and people let me down on my team. I can get really salty. So I know this is something I can do. But I think the discussion here was a bigger discussion that I thought was really good for this podcast because I don't know. I was talking about this with Clay outside of Discord as well. And essentially, this whole conversation was drilled around Batman being realistic, or in this terms, the word was used was grounded. So, Clay, I want to ask you when you hear the word grounded in a sense of movies and entertainment, what does that mean to you?
realistic. It means the
Right?
exact same thing. I don't know
Yeah.
why anybody would make a separation between the two.
Yeah. So this person in Discord, who is gone, by the way, after this conversation happened, they left. So they are no longer in Discord. And I was like, okay, they were a person that's been around for a while too. So, but I'm not going to hate on somebody for leaving. I think, I'm big on mental health. If it just wasn't something you want to deal with, you know what? Get out of there. I 100% respect that. But in this situation, they said, I used the word realistic. I was like, so you want a realistic Batman? And he was like, no, I want a grounded Batman. And I was like, that's the same thing. And he was like, no, I just don't want him like flying out to outer space and going to other places like halfway across the world. I want him to be in Gotham. And I was like, what? He was like, I literally mean grounded, like staying on the ground. I was like, who ever uses the word like that if you're not on a plane? Like, I never hear grounded used
Wait,
in
he
that sense.
literally meant grounded as in like grounded on the floor?
Yes, Batman wasn't flying to space or doing anything like that. Literally, part of the
That
conversation says that.
that is a weird take on that phrasing.
Right? Right. So, and then the discussion got farther because we were talking about we have a few people in the Discord that constantly like they only know me as a comic book person. They don't know me as anything else, it feels like. So they
Mhm.
constantly ask me stuff about Batman, which I don't mind. We run a podcast about it. I don't mind answering questions. Sometimes when I have to answer the question a billion times in a row, I'm like, okay, like just come on, you got to know it by now. But for the most part, in this situation, we were kind of talking. I don't know what we were mentioning it about. I think it was having to do with villains in the Matt Reeves movie, right?
Yeah.
And I was saying like I had mentioned I was like, yo, we've had realistic Batman for what 20 years now, 15 years, you know?
Mhm.
And I was like, I want something different. I was like, in Matt Reeves's Batman, you're not gonna be able to get, I think, if they're gonna do this serious, grounded, realistic tone, I don't think you can bring in somebody like a Clayface because it'll just look unless they establish that in this first movie. If you bring in Clayface in the second movie, tonally, I do not think that works. How do you
And
feel about that?
the big argument with that people face whenever it comes to Matt Reeves is the first thing everybody ever says is this man made us believe apes could talk. Like that's the
Yes.
very first thing that they go to. And
Yeah.
I completely understand that, but you have to understand that that is not how people are considering Batman. When
Yeah.
people look at Batman and taking the realistic tone to it or the grounded tone to it, there is no possibility of anything within the science fiction airspace when it comes to Batman.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, and the thing here too is I asked this because it did get to one point where what did he I'm trying to find it in the thing, but it got to the point where I was saying something like, Batman is it turned out to be that this person didn't like he's one of the I don't like Batman with prep time excuse. And I was like, "Oh, you're one of those."
But what
Because
does that necessarily mean?
there are a lot of people out there that don't like that Batman can beat anybody with prep time. And we've had this argument on the podcast. I'm like, dude, this is a man that trained for, depending on how you see him, 12 to 20 years of just trying to be the best human in the world. Knowledge wise, strength wise, everything. He's trying to be the best. And that is prep time. But everybody thinks that Batman literally needs to stop midway fight, be like, okay, I got to study this guy. Now I got to go back to the Batcave. I got to run analysis. I got to run tests. I got to come up with a game plan, and then I can beat him. That's how people think Batman works. Because you constantly have all these YouTube, freaking videos that are like, well, if Batman actually had 5 years to actually, to study Thanos, he could actually beat, you have a bunch of that shit.
Mhm.
And people don't understand that Batman can work on the fly. That's what makes him so good.
One of the best examples of this is is your favorite story, Batman Hush. If
Yeah.
you remember, he is fighting Superman
Hmm.
and they go underground. Bruce doesn't know Metropolis like he knows Gotham. Now, you can say, yes, he probably has a layout or a blueprint of like some of the major cities in America or around the world. So that
Yeah.
way, hey, if I ever want to build a side Batcave here, I can probably do that. But he doesn't know the electrical system. He doesn't know the sewage system. He doesn't know these things like he does
Hmm.
Gotham. But when he immediately gets underground, he sees what is around him and he's immediately able to play off of that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's one of his greatest strengths.
Yeah, so that got in there and it just turned into this big like I don't know, he's like I don't want to see that and I don't like the excuses. And I'm paraphrasing all this like I think this person did word it a little bit better, but for the most part that is the gist of this. And I was saying cuz he was saying he didn't want to fight aliens and all this stuff. I was like and he's I don't want him to fight all these kind of things. I was like, "So you want realistic?" Because he also made the comment of he's like, "What's realistic about uh guys dressing up like freeze men or whatever?" And I'm like goons, like just dudes dressing up in like parkas and stuff, like as freeze goons. That's very realistic, and so is people dressing up in face paint to be clown villains. You know what I mean? Like you can make that realistic. You cannot make a man that turns into clay realistic. Like
Yeah.
it's just not possible. But you can make a Joker. You can make a realistic freeze if you wanted to. It
Like
just
take this is something of our generation. Well, I guess there was a newer one, and I'm pretty sure we were wanting to go see it. I still am kind of wanting to see it. But The Invisible Man, the movie,
yeah.
the very first one was with Kevin Bacon. Like if you remember in that movie within itself, it had a very serious tone. It was kind of played off of horror aspects, but there was some kind of goofy things that were happening in there, and so it's weird to say like, oh, this is a horror realistic take on the Invisible Man. Like that's kind of weird. Now the
Yeah.
newer one took a psychological turning point on it, and it would seem like it makes sense, but again, I haven't seen that movie, so I can't really
Yeah.
say like, oh, this really convinced me that there was in fact an invisible man. So
Yeah.
it's really up to people's interpretation, but it is there is a defined line of like, hey, there is uh scientific, like not scientific but sci-fi aspects to
It's
this versus
plausible
this. Yeah.
is how they kind of try to put it out there, right? Like it's plausible. They try to use science to make it believable. Is that what you're getting at? Is that am I getting that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's plausible for this to happen in this realm of
Yeah.
reality versus, hey, this is plausible in sci-fi reality.
Yeah, so I found the whole thread right here. I just found it. So it started with somebody, another person saying grounded Batman. What the hell does that mean? And I put in parentheses, freaking realistic. And the person was like, "That's not what I meant. I meant literally grounded, not going to space and shit or across the world to fight an alien in Gotham, protecting against weird monster henchmen." And I was like, "Which is in itself realistic." And then this person was like, "Not really." And then they went. I just made the comment. I was all police fight crime in their cities all the time, which is what he would want Batman to be doing, right? Fighting crime in his city. And then he made the comment. He was like, "Didn't know police fought snowmen and clown mob bosses." Also, I don't care if Superman exists in this world because we were talking about aliens and stuff. He was like, or whatever. I would prefer that he did, but Superman deals with aliens because, well, he is an alien. And Clay made the comment. He was like, Batman deals with aliens all the time. And then I made a snarky comment. I was like, "That's not grounded, Clay." And this guy was like, "I'm not. I'm saying I don't want him to." And I was like, "So you want realistic Batman? You want him to fight people?" And then he was like, "Jesus Christ, sure." And I was like, "Dude, I'm just saying, aliens isn't a far stretch from something like Clayface. Like, if you can have aliens, then why can't you have Clayface? Is it because we think that aliens do exist out in the galaxies and galaxies far away? Is that why it's not realistic?" Because if anything, I think he was making a statement that you could probably do Clayface, but he's against aliens. If anything, aliens are more plausible.
Yeah, that's true.
So so
I
it didn't make any sense there.
it's a very weird like line or hill that people are willing to die on when it comes to, and one thing that I said as soon as this person left Discord, I sent
Mhm.
you a text saying that it's very unfortunate that somebody like Nolan and now probably Matt Reeves
Yeah.
spoiled the fuck out of these people who are watching these Batman movies
Yeah.
and thinking, "Oh, this is the only way Batman can ever be told storytelling wise."
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah,
I, I hate that idea.
yeah, it's very dumb, and and this is what I ended up saying too, because I do want to kind of give this person a credit because I do think they were trying to get to a certain place, but they weren't taking what I was saying into consideration. So
Hmm.
that's what I guess was kind of getting annoying. And so he goes on to say, like, after I mentioned that the aliens wasn't a long stretch, he was like, "I don't want Batman dealing with shit that he can't deal with. I hate that Batman with prep time excuse." And then I was like, "What?" And then I was like, "Oh, you're one of those." And he was like, "I'm using alien as a blanket term, like strong, buff, adventurous alien dudes. I want him to deal with shit he can deal with. I don't want him to be overpowered. Him being a dude is what makes him cool." And I agree, but that is what makes him cool. It's what makes him relatable. But still seeing Batman fight fucking Superman is amazing.
Yeah.
Like from this instance, BVS should have never happened. And I don't know if this person liked BVS or not, but like that means Batman should have never been able to fight Superman, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Well, yeah,
So
no.
like,
No. It that is a valid criticism to say, hey, if you don't, well, in your aspect, I don't
yeah,
think his aspect clearly doesn't make sense to me. But
hmm
like the idea of Batman not getting the chance to interact with anybody in the existing DC universe other than Joker, Penguin, and not even maybe Two Face, because Two Face maybe even taking it a little too far.
hmm
But like Firefly couldn't happen. We don't
yeah,
have jetpacks and giant flamethrowers that that coincide with each other.
yeah,
Um, Solomon Grundy couldn't work. That's a zombie.
hmm
Clayface, like you said, it's made out of clay.
yep.
Wouldn't work.
Poison Ivy
Uh,
wouldn't work.
Poison Ivy wouldn't work. Uh, and you could honestly probably say that Joker wouldn't technically work.
Yeah,
Like it,
yeah. If you
it,
fell on acid, you'd probably die.
yeah. Like there's there's too much comic bookiness even in the quote unquote realistic takes of Batman.
Yeah.
Like hell, look at Tim Burton and what he did with Penguin. He
Yeah.
literally made him half penguin.
Yeah. He ate fish, like literally straight up fish. Um, so yeah, I don't know. And then like the way this ended, and this is gonna get us to our final point, but I was like, yeah, so in your mind, Batman must be realistic. I was like, Batman from the dawn of time has dealt with all kinds of villains. It's canon. And if you want it to be realistic or believable, which I think maybe that was the word he wanted to be using more, and he was just maybe getting offended by the word realistic, because I
Hmm.
can understand believable, which kind of that goes into the plausible realm, right?
Yeah.
But this is what I always ask people that have this mindset. I was like, do you apply this to every other human character in comics? Because I've noticed personally, people only treat Batman this way and not every other human character. It's only Batman. Batman has to be the realistic one, but you can have all these other human characters in comics doing crazy shit and it's okay. Like, I just don't understand why Batman has to be the realistic one. Is that because everybody wants Batman to be real in the real world, and so he's the only one that we're going to apply reality to?
It's so
Like,
weird.
yeah, I don't understand it.
I never really looked at it that way, to be completely honest, because
Yeah,
there's a lot of people in comics that I don't necessarily read that are like strictly human. Now,
yeah,
you can make an argument for like the Green Lantern Corps. John,
hmm,
Hal, Kyle, Guy, they're all humans.
yeah,
So like Green Lantern Corps shouldn't exist,
yeah.
you know,
I agree.
in the aspect of what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Constantine, he's human but
hmm.
deals with magic. Shouldn't be able to do the stuff that he does. Uh,
Zatanna,
it
same thing.
it just gets rid of the comic book
Yeah,
aspect and the fantastical aspect of their stories. So
yeah,
like it it's very odd that there's so many people out there that will look at Batman and be like, he is the like he is the apex. He is the ideal comic book hero that
yeah,
can only be made in this certain way and no other way. And I was just thinking about it the other day, like,
hmm,
because I personally don't like horror films, right?
hmm.
You've seen this
Yeah, yeah, for
firsthand,
sure.
but I do like the idea of saying, "Hey, why don't we like the same thing? Like if James Wan could have
Hmm.
really gone out there with Swamp Thing, and he did, and do
Yeah,
what he did. He made a superhero genre show
hmm.
in his like
Style.
style of filmmaking.
Yeah,
Like I would want to see more of that in
hmm.
filmmaking. So like yeah, you can make Batman realistic, but why can't we see a horror movie with Batman
Yeah,
or a
yeah. I agree.
suspense movie with Batman? Like I think that stuff would be more in the realm of realistic because
Hmm.
people freaking eat up the the Texas Chainsaws or the
Yeah,
Screams or the Friday the 13th and stuff like that. Like have a Batman movie like that.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. And to end this whole thing off, his final statement before he dipped out of the Discord was, "What is realistic about a guy dressing up in a bat suit and fighting crime in the world where there are flying dudes? You want my argument to be something it's not. You get too salty and it's annoying." And then that's when he dipped. And I said, I was like, "Bro, I just used the word believable." And I kind of went on and just said, I was like, "I just think that the way you're using the word grounded and realistic doesn't make sense, or grounded doesn't make sense." And then I said, I was like, you were trying to make an argument about a fictional character not being able to do or not do something. Like that's always the end note. Like they're fake characters. They can do whatever the fuck the writer wants them to do. And it's like we're the ones that are putting this stringent like, oh no, they can't do that because in issue 142 he did this. You know what I mean? Like, and people always forget that retconning's a fucking thing in comics. You know?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, man. I don't know. So like I want to leave this if you guys are listening to this on YouTube or even if you want to go to the podcast, if you listen to on Spotify or something like that and you want to go to YouTube to leave a comment, let me know. Was I being salty here? Was my argument wrong? Like just let me know in that comment sections down below because I have said this a million times on this podcast. I have no problem admitting that I'm wrong. But in this situation, I wasn't salty, and I don't know if it was just the words were used wrong here, but I
And that's
had
what I was also going to ask the audience. If you guys want to join in on this conversation, of course, you can always join the Discord. Um, but in the wake of this conversation, what would have been the best word to use in that
mhm,
situation? And what is the opposite? Like, because we use the phrasing comic booky, but
yeah,
if it's grounded and realistic are the terms that we can use to making it seem like it is quote unquote believable in our world,
yeah.
what would the opposite be? Like how would you go about having this conversation with others, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's anything better than comic booky,
Yeah.
to be honest. So, yeah, I don't know. It'll be very interesting to see, but that was the topic of the week that I was just like, all right, okay, sure. That was very interesting. So, I don't think this person listens to the podcast, but if they do, hey man, you're always welcome back to come back to the Discord. By the way, if anybody is like, I'm gonna go to the Discord to fight Juice, I don't take bait that easy. So I also have a lot to do, so I don't get into ridiculous arguments all the time. Although I do when I have time. So just FYI. But let's move on to the next topic, which I mean, this is another topic we had a discussion about in the Discord, and I want to hear your opinion on it, Clay. Joker 2 script is apparently nearing completion or is completed and is getting slated for a 2023 production start. Did you see this? And if so, what do you think they can do with the movie?
I am not entirely sure about this. We have both been in the boat that Joker was supposed to be a one-time film, and even
Mhm.
before that, you were dead set on, oh, we don't need this movie at all.
Yeah.
Uh,
100%.
so we can definitely be proven wrong on Joker 2.
Yeah.
And there's so many people that just say, "Oh, well, this is ethically and fundamentally the way that WB was supposed to go because it
What?
made $1 billion." Like that is because a movie made $1 billion, you have to make a sequel. Uh,
Capitalism wise, yes, says
I
that.
don't see where's Titanic 2.
Oh, well, we're gonna need to have zombies for that one.
I, I'm I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
if that is your if that is your argument, there should be a lot more sequels out there to movies. I mean, I guess you could say Dark Knight Rises was not the greatest, but Joker 2 and its script, I am
Mhm.
not entirely sure where they could go.
Yeah.
Um, because if it's just a movie of him locked up and possibly escaping,
Mhm.
like, eh, I
Yeah.
would assume that that is where we're gonna start, or it's just another origin film, and then again, like that would be the worst if it's just the Joker, but then at the end it's like we've already heard this one before, and it's like him in the insane asylum. Um,
Yeah, so that's the interesting thing that me and Drew were talking about this in the Discord, and I was just like, I said, "Oh, so I just don't like the," because he was talking about how he was like, "I trashed the first movie," and then he was like, I'm not gonna make a comment on the second movie." You know what I mean? Because he was essentially proven wrong as well. And so I was like, oh, so did I. I was like, I just don't think a sequel can come near to the first movie. Also, it would have been nice for it to just be a standalone. And Drew was kind of saying, me and Drew kind of had the same idea. Like the only way I could see it work is you can't go the Batman route. I don't think you can't do Batman because Joker will have to be a lot older, and Batman's gonna be like this just random ass Batman character, and
well,
you're probably gonna focus more on Batman in that
you
situation.
say that,
Mhm.
you say that, but look at Gotham.
Yeah, but look, yeah, and I would say, look at Gotham.
Look at
That's what I
Gotham.
would say. That's what I would say.
No,
But
I totally agree with you, but I'm trying to think if there has ever been like an Elseworld story
mhm,
where Joker was a lot older than Batman. And
yeah,
there's not one that I can think of. They have either been what's the word? Pictured or characterized as the same age or around the same age, I would guess.
yeah,
Um like I understand that people would immediately make the argument of like, oh well, seeing Batman would just like give new life to Joker and he would feel young again and he would be doing all of this. I'm like, no, that's not how bodies work.
Yeah.
Like, take it
Yeah.
from somebody who has not been exercising in a while, just turned 30. My body is killing me, and I don't care. There is no amount of just one individual that would make me be like, huh, I'm 21 again. Never.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the funny thing here is, like, I just what would be his purpose with Batman? You know what I mean? Like, because again, you can't just is he gonna be just watching Batman save a bunch of people, and that's what's gonna make him wanna be bad? Like, like, the first movie made sense on why he hated people and why he was going after certain people, right? Like, it made sense in the story. But I just don't understand it, like, putting Batman in here. It would be more of a Batman story because Batman wants to go after the person got that killed somebody, right? That killed his parents, right? And
Yeah.
he knows that it started because of the whole Joker craziness. So that would be the route you're going. So you're going to spend more time on Batman than you are Joker, which I don't think that should be the case if you are doing a Joker too. I mean, who's writing this movie? Tynan. But like the thing here is, this is what I ended up saying. I was like, because Drew was like, I hope no Batman, Joker talking to a new therapist with a new story. And I was like, that would be great if it's just completely a new story and none of the previous stuff matters. I was all giving the classic we know nothing about Joker's past vibe, or we get William Defoe to be the imposter Joker and do that storyline.
Well, William has had some very funny remarks about that whole
Mm-hmm.
conversation. Like I think one of his quotes was, "It's always nice to know that you give off the vibes of a sociopath."
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
people fan cast him as the Joker, um, it's I I mean, yes, he does have the crazed look. He's always
Mm-hmm.
had the crazed look, and I think that it would be fun. Um, I don't know if this Joker would have that vibe of like, oh, he can't come onto my territory.
But here's the thing though. Knowing how Arthur Fleck is and how he's so emotional, he would feel like somebody's taking his spotlight because he was like, I worked so hard to
Oh,
get this.
I I could see that actually.
Yeah.
Especially with his background in like wanting to be a
Comedian and
stage
stuff.
performer
Yeah.
and all of that. Like that they could very well play into that actually.
Yeah.
I could see that.
So if they wanted to do something like that, I think you can get away with it. But yeah, I think you would have to just not refer to the previous Joker at all. And people be like, "What the fuck? Like, why didn't it refer to anything from the sequel?" And be like, "Because it's not a sequel. It's just another standalone Joker thing." Like, I think the only way that it works is you make it another standalone with just the same actor, and people would be like, "What the fuck? It's just a new story." I think that's the only way it could work, in my
Has
opinion.
there ever been a movie like that though?
There's been, I think, shows and series like that. I mean, well, I was gonna say, look at, I was gonna say, that doesn't make sense. I was gonna say Final Fantasy, but those are different characters completely. It's just
Well, like
this, I
you
guess,
could do like a I guess an anthology type of
yeah.
trilogy where it's like, hey, it's all the same actor, it's all the same character, but it's all
There's a
different
show like
stories.
that. I'm just trying to remember what fucking show it is. Like, they genuinely use the same actors, but shit changes, and it's not the same stories, man. It's definitely something I've watched. I just don't know what fucking show it is. But if anybody's out
Is
there
it that show
listening,
This Is Us?
no, I haven't watched that show. My parents watched that show.
Okay.
Um, but no, it's fucking something, dude. Like, I don't know if it's something like along the lines of like Black Mirror or some
See,
crazy
I
shit
think
like
Black
that.
Mirror is kind of like that. I've
Yeah.
never seen it, but I've heard a lot of people talk about it, and it kind of sounds like a anthology type of show.
Yeah, so I think it would have to be something like that. The American Horror Story has new cast every season, right? I think. I only ever
Yes,
saw
I
the first
believe
season.
so.
Yeah. So, anyways, I think there are shows out there like that have the same cast, but it's new stories, and I think I think there's a way to make it work. And I know there's a show out there. If you guys know a show like that, leave it in the comments because it's, I'm going to be driving myself crazy until I figure that out. But yeah, so we'll see. I mean, I guess we'll find out in 2023, right? What we're going to get. But I would prefer just a whole new story with just Joaquin Phoenix. But
Yeah.
anyways, speaking of possible castings in movies, the news finally came out, and it's not confirmed or anything, but we could be possibly getting the Nightwing news soonish because
Yeah,
a
I know we've
report.
been I know I
Yeah,
know we've been saying this like every single week for the past 3 weeks or
yeah,
so, but it does seem like they are getting closer and closer to that casting. And like we have been reporting, it does look like Dylan O'Brien is at the top spot for that.
yeah. According to the reports, he's been offered the role, so I don't know what that means. Like he's been offered, but he's what got to think about it. Or is it like he's been offered, but they gotta like maybe he's got other projects, so logistically they have to work some stuff out? Like,
Huh.
you know?
Maybe they offered him the role and now he's just kind of talking up his contract, maybe?
Maybe, yeah, especially if it's gonna be multiple like movies. Cause you would assume he's gonna show up in Batgirl, right?
I would assume that he would show up in Batgirl. I would then assume that they want to do a spinoff,
Yeah.
um, and then probably a team up movie after that. Like I'm sure they're wanting to do multiple things with him.
Yeah.
And for somebody who doesn't think that WB really has their crap together when it comes to planning ahead for their movies,
Mhm.
I think that, especially with James Gunn doing what he has done with the Suicide Squad and planning ahead, um, I think they probably asked for some pointers. I
Yeah.
think after Flashpoint, things are going to start being a little bit more clear.
Yeah. Wait, speaking of that, we saw the news. This is totally off topic, but we saw the news of you've sent this. HBO is split or Warner splitting from AT&T. So like is AT&T not going to own them anymore or what is that deal?
Technically, yes. And it's a 4.3 or $43 billion deal. This is of
Mhm.
course going with Discovery. That is
So
actually
Discovery is buying them.
yes, Discovery is well, it's really weird in the way they're doing this contract. So Discovery and Warner Media
Mhm.
are combining,
Yeah.
and then AT&T as a company is splitting off after
Mhm.
the purchase. Um and so they get some residuals from that, and they're getting, I believe, what is said to be, like I said, $43 billion.
Yeah.
And there's a big possibility. I said it in the Discord that everybody who had HBO Max for free via their AT&T contracts with their phone or AT&T internet or cable or whatever,
Yeah.
they offer you HBO Max for free. That probably won't be the case anymore.
Yeah, which would kind of suck, but I mean, we've had it free for like 2 or 3 years now. How long
Yeah.
has HBO Max been around? It's been around for a while. But yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, so possible Nightwing. I did actually post the that assassin movie in the Discord, and I gotta say, he did a lot more action in that movie than I thought.
Yes. Have you
Um,
actually seen it?
or have not, I have not.
Okay,
Just
so
that
it
one trailer has a lot of action.
yeah, it does. It was a part of my I think during the shutdown when we were still working together and we had those 2 weeks off, uh it was a part of my like, hey, let's see everything I want to see on Netflix
Yeah.
this week or whatever. I watched it. It wasn't a horrible movie. It wasn't
Hmm.
an amazing movie. It was a good movie. And he does play this like it's a very tropey film in the sense of like his loved one dies because of, this reason, and
Yeah.
he wants revenge, and so he goes off to become like this badass assassin dude trained by Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
So it he does do a pretty good job at the action, at the choreograph uh for those fighting
Yeah.
scenes and stuff. But like I said before, he has a history in somewhat action type films with Maze Runner. So he
Yeah.
has that background. And to put him into this role as Nightwing, I think he'll work just fine.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I'm hoping we get it confirmed on that pretty soon. Or just something, because it would be really weird for why they're trying to confirm this now if he wasn't going to be in Batgirl. You know what I mean? Like if they're searching for a Nightwing actor right now, unless there's a Nightwing movie in production that they really want to start. Like I don't
I
understand why
mean,
this news would be coming out.
the news does come out sometimes when actors are confronted. I remember whenever it came to casting, I believe it was Doctor Strange for
Uh,
Marvel. They actually wanted freaking Joker. They wanted Walking Phoenix, and they
oh
offered
wow.
him the role, and he was in the running for it alongside Benedict Cumberbatch,
Yeah.
and then uh, Joaquin said no, so they went with Benedict.
Yeah, because I don't think he likes the idea of doing a bunch of sequels, right?
Yeah, that was his.
Yeah.
That was his whole thing with jumping on the Joker, and then they're like, "Hey, Joker made $1 billion. We'll
Yeah.
give you a lot of money. Make a second one
Yeah.
with us."
Definitely. Definitely what he's doing. Um Anyways, moving on from that though, we do have some sad news this week because is it Brian Augustine? Is that how you say his name?
I believe that is how you
Yeah.
pronounce it. Yes,
This was the writer or artist.
I believe he was the artist.
Okay, for Gotham by Gaslight, which is one of my favorite stories too. He unfortunately passed away this week, which definitely sucks. But we always like to pay some respects to these amazing creators that came through the world and gave us some amazing stories. But unfortunately, he passed away. I believe he also did some stuff on Flash that he was known for.
So my mistake. He was the writer and editor
Okay, there you go.
for Gotham by Gaslight. He it says here he suffered a stroke,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
scary
But
stuff.
he is, like you said, very famous for Gotham by Gaslight. But if anybody is interested in reading some of his other stuff, he did amazing work with Mark Wade on Mark Wade's Flash run. He was the editor on that run, and he brought back a whole bunch of heroes. Johnny Quick, Max Mercury, Impulse. He did a whole bunch of stuff there that really played off of like, hey, I'm gonna be putting in the entire uh, DC universe in this book. So go check that out as well. It's on DC Universe Infinite app, or if you just click on. Oh, by the way,
Mhm.
random side note here. Comixology is basically getting completely swallowed by Amazon starting, I think, next month
Oh,
or
really?
within this month. So the Comixology app is going to be changing. You'll have to
Prime Comics or
pre-order
what?
stuff, but you're basically buying comics from Amazon from now on.
Hmm.
Whoever is buying digital, which I am. So it's very,
Is
very weird.
Prime gonna be giving us free Comixology?
I hope
I
so.
hope so. Yeah,
That would be
that would
awesome.
be awesome. Damn, what the fuck? Super in sync there. Holy shit. Um, Now on to the next bit of news that I fucking called. I told you this was gonna happen, Clay. Clay, remember when you said that you thought this game was gonna come out at the end of
At the end of
2021 or some shit?
2021.
It has been confirmed that Suicide Squad, the game, is being delayed until 2023. I told you this was going to happen. Now, you said you have some theories on this because other games perform poorly?
Yes. So I have been having this conversation with several of my big gamer fans. They have their own gaming podcast that is about to actually be up and running. My sister station, Geekverse, really cool guys. Go check them out. They have just made their podcast a small business. They were able to do that this year, and
Nice.
they're branching out into other. Podcast feeds, including a gaming feed that should start sometime this month. So the big thing with them is when they saw the two trailers, because technically Suicide Squad has only put out two trailers. Um, when they put out the trailer, they were like, something seems kind of off about this game. And I was like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? They're like, well, we haven't seen any game footage. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay. And then the Fandom trailer came out, and they're like, "Oh, it's game footage."
Yeah.
But it's game footage of the exact same areas every single time.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay. And I have played with these guys the game The Avengers,
Yeah.
and that game did so poorly and
Yep.
technically is still doing poorly. That game is on sale for less than $20 so much throughout the year, and it has
Yeah.
only come out. It's only been a year and a half since its release, and it's already dropped that much in price.
Yeah, it did
Uh,
not look great to me. I did not buy that.
it has its ups and downs, but it's
Mhm.
very repetitive. It's in the line of like Destiny.
Ooh,
So if
okay.
people understand that reference, that is
Yeah.
basically what we assumed Suicide Squad was going to be. It had its own story, yes, with all of the Justice League members. You would fight them, go to this city or that city, do whatever, fight the boss, whatever. But it was going to be a very repetitive type of story with a whole bunch of DLC with different Suicide Squad members, is what we assumed that it was going to be. But
Yeah.
because of the backlash of what happened to Avengers, they're like, oh shit, this is going to be one of our very first games coming out for the new generation consoles. We
Mhm.
can't have a flop. So let's go ahead and rework this thing. And that's probably why it's delayed.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to see if that is the case or not. But like, I mean, I'm not a developer, so I don't know how fast you can rework something like that. You know what I mean? I even thought if it was going to come out, it would have been a December release or like November, for Christmas time.
Yeah.
So now they're just saying 2023. It could be December 2023 if they're going to have to redesign a whole thing.
Yeah,
So,
I think, but here's the kicker for that. If it is pushed for 2023, I think that means Gotham Knights is not released until fall of this year.
oh
I
yeah,
think
I could definitely see that.
that
Um,
is the only good spot for it because like just in this month alone, it is now February,
mhm.
like 3 very large games are coming out this month. So,
Yeah, I'm only getting Horizon because I don't even know the other two. Is Dying Light
uh
one of them or no?
I know
What is the other
Elden
two?
Ring is another one. I can't remember the third one off the top of my head, actually.
Elden Ring is something I need to play because everybody's like, dude, it looks amazing. I think you'll like it. But I'm just like, I don't know, man. I'm all about mechanics and
See,
like,
so if you are not into like the Dark Souls or the
yeah.
Bloodborns or, well, see, here's the thing. I told
Hmm.
you that you would have loved Ghost of Tsushima,
Yeah,
which
yeah. That looked
was
cool.
like basically I think I told you that was what is the freaking Zelda game? Breath of the Wild
Yeah.
meets Assassin's Creed Odyssey is
Hmm.
basically what I told you Ghost of Tsushima was. And I'm pretty sure Elden Ring is basically Dark Souls and Ghost of Tsushima and freaking Breath of the Wild all at once. Like it
Hmm.
looks crazy.
If there's a demo, I'll try it. But here's the thing: everybody thought I would like Monster Hunter, but that game was just too slow. Like,
That game is very slow and I
yeah,
can't get into it. I like the aspect of it, but it's way
yes.
too slow of a game.
Yeah. And like that's why I love Horizon Zero Dawn because you can roll, you can dive, you can slide, you can like stab things while running and shit. Like, oh, Horizon Zero Dawn is such an amazing game. And I will be streaming that game when it comes out. And the thing that sucks is I will be streaming it, but I'm going to preface it that I'm probably going to play the game off of stream too because playing games on stream and being there for like the story for everybody, nah, I'm sorry, guys. I just
Yeah,
want to
no,
fucking play that
I'm
game.
gonna go ahead and pull the trigger on that game as well.
Yeah,
And for my birthday, either was it my birthday or Christmas? I think it was Christmas. I have two $25 gift cards. So instead
nice.
of buying the game for like $80 on the digital deluxe, I'm gonna be
Hmm.
buying it for 30. And I'm just like,
Nice.
fuck yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I'm glad I have a job now. I can actually buy that. But so that's the thing. But yeah, so it'll be very interesting to see what happens. And I think it's actually for the best that that game got delayed because I don't think two Batman games should come out close to each other.
yeah. No,
I think,
I think it would have clashed with the money making for sure.
yeah,
But I mean, if you're gonna make me choose between those two games, like I'm sorry, I am a big story game guy, and so I'm
yeah.
gonna probably choose Gotham Knights. But like
Yeah.
at the same time, like I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna buy both games because I'll
Mhm.
definitely do both games. I'll play both games, but I'm probably gonna be playing Gotham Knights a little bit more.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to see what happens. Now, I'm curious, could have been a delay because the studio's about to be bought.
Oh, that's another thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's in the same realm of the gaming talk or whatever. So I was telling Juice also in Discord because of those gaming guys as well. Um, there has been a lot of purchases coming out of both Xbox and Sony, and surprisingly, they actually looked back at some of the like largest inquisitions of properties when it comes to gaming, and apparently January, February, or
Mhm.
like Q1 is the technical term, is like a very popular time of the year for gaming companies to make all of their purchases.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
guess
everybody has a budget, that's why.
I was gonna say it's probably like the beginning of the budget. It's just like, hey, let's do everything now and then work on everything throughout the year.
Yeah.
Um, but of course, we heard the big news with Activision Blizzard with Xbox. We heard the big news for Bungie and Sony, and so there has been. I think it was Jeff Keighley. Anybody who's anybody in gaming knows who Jeff Keighley is. He's the new guy on the block with all of the gaming shows and whatnot. I just think he's hilarious, but like at the same time, I commend his hustle, and he's done
Mhm.
a immaculate job within the last 3 years um, for doing what he's doing. But he said that there has been rumblings of more acquisitions of properties, and there is rumors that WB Games will be the next purchase. For who? I have no idea. Um, we both said that there would probably be in our best interest, it being Sony.
Yeah,
But
I hope so.
because I've said Juice is like you traitor, but I bought.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't buy. Abby bought it for me, an Xbox for my birthday. So I have both an Xbox and a PlayStation now. It looks like now, especially with the Activision purchase, especially with the Blizzard purchase and everything else, it looks like my FPS days are going to be
Mhm.
on Xbox, while my action adventure RPG games are going to be on Sony.
Yeah.
So if that is the way it's going to go, I really need WB games to be with Sony.
Yeah, Clay asked me why I don't like Xbox, and I personally don't like Xbox because of the way they've handled their console, like with the 360, with the Red Ring of Death, and people are like, oh, somebody will make an excuse about why that wasn't that bad, which would be fucking stupid. But my biggest thing was I have never thought Xbox cares about gamers. I'm not saying like Sony's over here fucking sucking off gamers, but I just feel like they've always been in the business of games, right? Like Sony's always been in there in the business from the start, and they've just been making consoles for gamers. And I didn't like when an Xbox executive, when I think it was what was the like Xbox 4, like there's PS4, what was the one after Xbox One? Was that what the fuck it's called? Like I don't even know what they're called anymore.
Yeah,
Like what's the
it was
because
going
what's the
back in
current one?
history.
X,
It's the
Xbox
Series
X.
S and the Series X. The Series
Oh my
S
god.
is the digital, while the Series X is like the the
Yeah.
main console.
So whatever was prior to the new one, um,
Was the one.
they're
It was the
yeah,
Xbox
the
One.
original concept for it was not going to have physical games, which is they were going to be ahead of their time on that, but you were going to need to require internet because it was going to like update constantly or something like that. And an
Mhm.
Xbox executive came out and said they're like, if you can't afford internet, we have a system for you already, and this is Xbox 360. And I'm like, wow, that is the shittiest thing you can tell to consumers. Like, oh, if you're not rich enough, well then fucking just buy our old shit. It's gonna be cheap. Like that was just fucking the dickiest shit I could say. I was like, man, fuck this company. And the thing is too, I've never been a big Halo dude. Yes, I've played an Xbox, and I've even mentioned this. If somebody gave me an Xbox, I would accept it, but I'm never gonna buy anything for Xbox. So if you're gonna
Because
give
they
me an
would also need to
Xbox,
buy all of
yeah,
your
you would need to buy me
games.
Game Pass, games, all that shit. I'm not gonna give Xbox money. And some people could be like, "Well, you're stupid. Do you buy some of the games on PC?" And I'm like, well, "Yeah, I have to fucking nothing else runs on PC. I have to get like what Linux or something." Of course, I'm using that. I'm just the Xbox brand. I do not support or I will not buy stuff for it. But if Xbox shell company or company they buy makes this game that I like, yes, I'm gonna play it. I'm not that fucking hardcore about it. I'm just not gonna buy their shit. Because I even said I was like, if Xbox were to buy WB and they make Batman exclusively on Xbox, I'm not buying an Xbox. Like you will still, I still wouldn't buy Xbox. And people,
Juice said on Discord that would be the darkest timeline.
yeah, that would be the darkest timeline, 100%. Yeah, I just would not, I wouldn't buy it, just because I don't want to. But it would be really weird for them to have an exclusive on a console and not be on PC. Because I'd be like, I'll just buy it on PC. Fuck it.
Yeah, it's really weird because like so the big thing for the acquisition of Bungie, there's a TikTok joke. I don't know if you've seen them, but it's
Mm-mm.
these two girls and this dude. One is the girl is representing
Oh
Xbox, the other
yes,
girl is
yes, I've seen
representing
it.
PS5. And
Hmm.
like the PS5 Sony girl was like, "Oh, we just bought Bungie, so we own Halo." And they're
Yeah,
like, "No, that's not how it works." No.
yeah.
And the acquisition of Activision and Blizzard, technically, I believe it's Activision that owns the rights for like Marvel Ultimate Alliance, but
Mm,
they can't make a new one because of the same reason why we were talking about it in text. The licensings for each one of those individual characters still is with Disney and Marvel.
yeah.
So, like, even if WB Games goes to Xbox, they could they could still sell Arkham Origins,
Hmm.
Arkham Knight, and all of that at like a discounted price compared to what Sony is doing right now. You know, they
Yeah.
could legally do that, but they wouldn't be able to be like, "Hey, we're gonna make another Arkham game and it's strictly on Xbox."
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is too, because like I mean, at the moment, AT&T owns everything, or WB or whatever. So I made this point too that I was just like, if WB Studios gets sold, it doesn't mean that whoever buys WB Studios gets the rights to Batman, because those rights are licensed. Like whoever owns them, I'm assuming AT&T currently owns the rights to DC.
Yeah,
So because they own Warner Brothers. So AT&T could be like, "Oh yeah, y'all can buy the studio, but we still own Batman, and we're gonna give the licensing rights to Sony because they're paying us up $1 trillion." So I think that's the way it still works. But in if we're living in this capitalist society, making something like that is kind of stupid because I feel like you'd get more money on both consoles. But that we've seen it with Spider-Man, people will buy a console for one game.
oh yeah, most definitely.
So and it
I think it was my friend, my one of my podcast friends. He didn't have a gaming console at all, but he's a
mhm.
huge Spider-Man fan, and he was like, "Yep, I'm buying a PlayStation. I'm
Yeah.
immediately buying the red PS4, and I'm gonna be playing that." And he was like, "Oh, Miles Morales is for the PS5. Oh wait, they just announced it for the PS4. Don't have to buy anything." And so he
Yeah.
just bought that.
Yeah.
And like same thing for they're making a Wolverine game. I'm sure they're gonna
Mhm.
make a Wolverine themed PS5 with the claws looking like they're scratching your freaking case. People will
Yeah.
buy the fuck out of that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, they just I think announced recently that you're gonna be able to buy different plates for your PS5
I
to change the
hope so,
colors.
man. I really hope so. The white is nice and all, but like
Yeah.
I need a better looking console than that.
Yeah, I think I need to go like all black on it, or I was gonna buy a waifu sticker and just throw it on there, but I
Well,
might do
no,
that too.
I've seen some people on TikTok do some spray painting
Yeah.
on their plates. They like take it off the PlayStation, of course, and
Yeah.
then they like spray paint the fuck out of it. It looks really nice. I was like, oh, that's so freaking tempting.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't like the idea. Like, I don't know. PlayStation gets kind of hot over time, so I don't know how that would feel with the paint and stuff. So I never want to fuck with that. But like a sticker that you could just buy and put it on there, I don't mind. I just actually, to be honest, I just bought this like big ass EULA sticker that I thought was gonna fit on my laptop, and it was way bigger than I thought. And I was like, oh, so I mean, I could just throw it on my fucking
Nice.
on my PS4 or PS5 over here. But anyways, we'll see what happens in the gaming sphere. My friend actually, before we jump over to Peacemaker, my friend made a good point because I was like, yo, I was like, let the gaming wars begin. You know what I mean? And he was like, dude, you know that all these people are just buying all this shit for the metaverse, right? Like that's all they're doing. And I was just like, Oh, yeah.
Hey,
They're
your
probably
Oculus is gonna be great.
shit. Not if it's still owned by Facebook. Well, that's the funny thing too, right? That's the misconception. They just changed their title to Meta, but that doesn't mean they're the metaverse. Like the metaverse is such bigger, like,
Yeah.
and it's going to be very interesting. But yeah, I mean, we're not going to get into that, but it is kind of like you're seeing all these people plan for the metaverse or whatever, but it's just another way for them to take so much more money from people because like they're like, oh
Oh,
yeah, you're
fuck
gonna be
yeah.
able to have meetings in the metaverse and all this shit, and it's just a way for them to be like, oh hey, do you want they're gonna make us all have basic ass fucking avatars, and then they're everything is like, oh, you want to wear this Batman cowl to your freaking meeting, like $20, and that's what they're gonna be fucking doing. Like that's all the metaverse is gonna be. So I'm just like, man, fuck this. Eventually, it's just I think people are gonna be to the people that love reality and people that just love being on the computer, and that's it. Never
It's
leave their
gonna
house.
be fuck, what was that? What was that?
Ready Player
Freaking
One?
yeah, Ready Player One. That's
Yeah,
all it's gonna be.
yeah, exactly. But anyways, that's it. Let's move on to Peacemaker, which this is episode 6, and I have to say, ending was pretty fire. I'm enjoying the ending of this, but what did you think of the episode overall? Because we got left on a cliffhanger last time with
We did, and
Adebayo.
I
Yeah,
fucking called it. I'm
yeah,
sorry. I said that Hardcourt knew somehow.
hmm,
Um, I didn't know how. I assumed that Waller knew.
yeah,
She was gonna have her one trusty person on the team, which would have been Hardcourt, and then that's who was gonna save her. Well,
yeah,
Hardcourt did save her, but the thing is, Waller doesn't know.
yeah,
And that's what I'm like, what? This is gonna be pretty intense, and so much so because I think we'll just jump around here.
yeah.
The big thing about the team knowing is that Vigilante and Peacemaker do not know. They're still not saying anything.
Yeah. Do you think he's going to kill him?
There may be a like look at the flowers type of moment with
That would be
Mern
interesting.
and Peacemaker, I think. Because there's a moment in here where Peacemaker's like, I don't think I want to kill people anymore. And they're like, freaking aliens, what's wrong with you? He's like, no, 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 no. I'm okay with that. Like, especially the bug ones. Like I can
Yeah.
shoot them in the face, that's fine. I just don't want to kill normal people. So
Yeah.
like he's emphasized that he's okay with killing aliens.
Yeah.
So Mern is an alien. So
I have a feeling like he's gonna have like an awakening moment because I think he might kill his dad. I think that's how this ends, maybe. But I think he's gonna have like a resurgence. Where he's like, "Nah, I fucking love killing people for peace." Like, I feel like that's gonna end up happening because
do
I just
you
don't
think
know.
well,
I don't know. Him not killing people would just kind of be like, what? Now he's just gonna only fight aliens from now on? Doesn't make
do
sense.
you think that there's going to be a butterfly that infects his father?
Um,
Like that,
I
so
don't
so
know.
he's not gonna want to kill his dad because
Hmm.
he's his dad. But then a butterfly infects him and he's like, "Oh, you're no longer my dad." Boom.
Maybe, but I think it'd be more powerful if he killed him not as a butterfly,
I think
in
so
my
too.
opinion.
I think that that would be better in my
Yeah.
mind. I'm really surprised that they actually had him putting on the suit this episode.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was fucking fire. It looked great. Um, Still love that costume. It is really really good.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, dude, it is crazy. Like the way that Goff, I think is
Yeah. The
the
bug.
butterfly's name, was like freaking like writing the peace symbol on there. And it's basically just getting his attention. I think that's what that was. It wasn't necessarily like anything like, oh, we mean peace or anything like that. It was
Yeah.
just like, hey, I'm getting your attention. And then fucking Vigilante, man. What's your favorite
Yeah.
color? It's
Yeah.
a yes or no question. Oh, is it teal? No, why would we want to know that?
Yeah. I do love his goofiness. I know some people are not fans of Vigilante in this show,
Yeah, no, there
but
is
like,
actually a lot of people who are not liking the direction of Vigilante.
yeah. I have no problem with it, to be honest. Like, I genuinely enjoy it because, again, Vigilante he's like a D list character. Like, nobody gives a shit about him. So if you can make him, Deadpool-y and just make him entertaining at least, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because, like, having this serious killer gets so fucking boring over time. Like, if I wanted to do that, I would just go watch Liam Neeson
But
movies. You know
like
what I
you
mean?
also have to remember, like, he is so fucked in the head that when
Yeah.
comes time to kill, he's cold blooded. So he still
Yeah.
has that aspect in him, which is nice in the array of like, hey, he does have like two different sides of him, which is
Yeah.
cool. But
Yeah.
like I do agree also that like I didn't care about the character all that much before this. I knew about the character. I knew who
Hmm.
created the character, but like I didn't go back and be like, "Oh, I definitely need to find, you know, well, I feel like now more than anything since I am enjoying Vigilante now that I
Yeah.
want the first appearance of Vigilante, but for the character that James Gunn has made him to be rather than what he
Yeah.
was before."
For sure, for sure. And I just find it funny that like some people when you see because I like sites like comicbook.com, right? Or said that this is like the worst version of Vigilante or some shit like that. But comicbook.com is also the same site that'll have like be really preaching like I am Batman and all these other like changes that are very progressive, right? I'm like, why can't changing this character also be something known as like progressive or just interesting, right? Like, why is it only a certain type of progression like really good? I think I like this character. It's enjoyable. I don't see how this is bad. Like, but it is what it is. I guess some people do not like that. They just want it to be plain. I mean, nobody gave a fuck about Vigilante before
No.
this.
No,
Like,
not
so
at
I
all.
just don't understand it. But anyways, I mean, although like it feels like a lot happened in this episode, but not a lot happened in this episode because essentially
Agreed.
it was the cops going to get Vigilante, and it's because we know at the end of the last episode, oh, what's her name? The main cop, um, I'm forgetting
Uh,
her name.
Sophie.
uh, Sophie. She went to her uncle or whatever to get the warrant to arrest Vigilante. I mean, to arrest Peacemaker. And, so that's what's happening. We see the Red Dragon or whatever get out of jail. They have their racist jokes back and forth with each other. And what ends up happening is they're like, all right, we got to get ready to go get Peacemaker. And so the cops essentially, load up and they're going to go attack him. And this is where it got really weird for me. So we know Goff was the little bug. And yes, he did do the peace sign. And in my eyes, I was thinking that the cop that was taken that was issued that, what's his name? He took over the department, right? Like that guy.
Yeah, he was
I
the
thought
sheriff,
he
yeah.
was a bug. I
No,
thought he,
so Mern, if you paid attention to the conversation that they were having, Mern and him, in the
yeah.
previous episode, the butterfly inside Mern was
Mhm.
basically taking advantage of his past.
Yes.
And he
I
was
get that
taking,
now.
yeah. And so that, like, and plus the dude, the sheriff looks fucking weird with his long I think it was Peacemaker, was like, you freaking got Pennywise the freaking clown over
Yeah.
here. And dude, for real, the way because there's a moment where when they're
At
all
the end.
infected, they're all
Yeah.
smiling and shit, and I see his face, I'm like, oh god. um but yeah, he knew Mern before he
Mhm.
Mern was a butterfly. And so you get that history, and so now you understand why he's like this cold blood killer when he shoots those three freaking officers in the forest or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's very interesting because I was definitely under the impression that he was also a butterfly. And so the very end when, he does kill those people, the way I was envisioning it cuz I did assume that he was a butterfly, I thought butterflies could send signals to each other somehow, maybe telepathically or whatever. So I thought he in the cop station was trying to communicate with Peacekeeper or Peacemaker and like doing the peace symbol to get his attention and stuff to let him know something was going to happen. Like that's how I was
Oh,
thinking
okay.
about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he's like he's watching everybody load up their guns and stuff and then he ends up calling like yo we have a problem. and he calls what's his name, because I was thinking, oh, he's doing that as a backup plan because Peacemaker might be too stupid to realize the message.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's how I was viewing it. But then at the very end, we know that Sophie gets taken over by a butterfly and saves, essentially, Goff saves Peacemaker, kind of.
Yeah.
And he saves them. She turns into a butterfly. She goes through the whole weirdness of being a butterfly. And then she calls a shitload of other butterflies. And now, I did think this was kind of stupid because they all arrived in spaceships and left all their spaceships in this big field. And I was just like, okay, that's kind of weird. I feel like some kids would just stumble upon that and be like, wow, look at these toys. And so that was kind of weird, but it is what it is. But then she took over the whole police force and the prison. And I was just like,
That
oh
was sick.
shit. And so now it looks like we're going to have racists versus police that are butterflies versus Peacemaker's team.
Yeah.
And it looks like we're going to have this huge war. And that's essentially what the episode was. Except the police, when they raided Peacemaker's house, they found the diary that Adebayo left. And it had Wayne Enterprises on it and a bunch of other shit. And I
So
don't know what that's going to do.
I legit so they do explain what is in there,
Yes.
but the pictures for a split second inside the diary looked like they were blaming everything that happened in the Suicide Squad movie on
Mm-hmm.
Peacemaker. Because I thought for a second that I saw Starro
Yeah. I'd
in
have to
one
go
of those
back and
pictures.
look. I thought I saw like a shadowy, like BVS type screenshot. And I was just like,
I'll have to go back and look at it too.
yeah,
But for a second, I was like, "Oh shit, she's gonna blame everything, Starro, the whole incident over there, on Peacemaker." So that
yeah,
way, it's not like a huge international thing. It's just this, would be assassin that
yeah,
is, to blame. So makes sense. But then, like, Vigilante's like, "Dude, I thought you said you didn't have a diary,"
yeah.
and he's like, what are you fucking talking about?" And like now the butterflies, because they're all infecting other people, um,
Hmm.
did a freaking conference that is live on air and is telling all these people, "Oh, we now have in possession a diary of uh, Christopher Smith, Peacemaker, that
Yeah,
is basically saying that there are aliens among us and they are infecting everybody." And I'm like, "Oh fuck." And
yeah.
like, because for one, this is Adebayo's mission outside of everybody else, and
Which she's
they
hiding
found
from
this.
everybody else still.
Yeah, she was hiding, but then they Mern and Hardcore, they found out because she finally just said it. Uh, because of I think it was the officer that was like, "Oh yeah, they found this diary thing. What is all this
Hmm.
about?" And they're like, "Who the fuck planted this?" And that's when she kind of like
Wait,
was like,
that happened?
"Yeah."
Oh
It
fuck! I must have missed that.
So it was before the officer was infected.
Uh huh.
One of the random officers found it and gave it to him.
Yeah, I saw that.
He called Mern,
Uh
and
huh.
then Mern came out and was like, "What the hell is with this diary? And why does it
But
say all these different things?"
Adebayo didn't say that though, right? She didn't admit it, did
She
she?
I'm pretty sure she did, but it was without Peacemaker and them around. So everybody else now knows about the diary and about the
No,
butterflies.
I know they know about the diary, but I don't think she said that she planted it. I don't
Huh.
think because I
I'll
think she was just like nervous that like, oh fuck, they're probably gonna figure me out.
Yeah.
So I don't think it
Okay, maybe
was.
maybe
Yeah,
maybe maybe they just now know just about the diary then.
yeah, because I think that's gonna come to head in the next episode where they're gonna be like, who had all this information? Like, what the fuck was in there? Because they don't know what was in the diary.
Yeah.
So, that's gonna be a big thing there, and maybe it's gonna be like it could be because you gotta remember there's one episode. Do you think this is they're gonna blow their load in this next episode, or do you think
There's
it's gonna
two
be
more
like
episodes.
yeah, but like, yeah, I know there's two more episodes, but like, do you think they're gonna blow their load in this next one, or the finale is actually gonna be big?
I think the finale will actually be big. Like it'll like half of it, or if like 3/4 will be
Hmm.
like pretty big, and then of course you'll have your conclusion, things setting up things for the next season possibly,
Yeah.
and probably a cliffhanger for another spinoff.
You think we're gonna get a Purple Rain scene in this? Titans did it.
Fuck. I was like, hold
The
on, what? And
Purple
then
Rain.
you
I still can't believe they
Oh
fucking did
shit.
that, dude. That finale fucking made them worse than Gotham, which I
Oh yeah.
never thought I would say that, but that was fucking awful. But yeah, either way, Peacemaker still enjoying it. I don't think this was the strongest episode out of all the ones they've had, but that ending was pretty awesome. It was cool, like because it was like "She's a Monster" song or something like that. I forget what the actual song title was, but it's like Sophie just making this badass fucking like army, and then you had of course the White Dragon or Red Dragon freaking doing all. Is it White Dragon or Red Dragon?
The White Dragon.
White Dragon. You have him fucking doing all his shit, which was pretty interesting that they went with like the KKK stuff, but it had two points instead of one, which I thought
Yeah.
was an interesting thing. And yeah, they threw in some boobs in here, which is I'm always a fan of. But yeah, this wasn't the strongest episode, but it was cool. But yeah, that's it for Peacemaker. And we'll see what happens next week. I also did like the end credit scene because I was like, you know what, that makes sense. They don't know how to like really mess with the smiling and stuff. Like, all right, you got to be sad, be sad. He was trying to be sad, like it was pretty funny. So I thought that was cool. But anyways, let's move on to comics and let's start with fucking Steel. What is it? Dark Knights of Steel.
Yeah.
What did you think of this? We're going to talk about the one part that obviously I didn't like, but there's other stuff I didn't like in this book.
So, of course, this is issue number 4. We were told, I think, like by issue like 1, that
Mhm.
issue number 4 was going to be a flashback issue. That it was going to tell us the story that we didn't get to see in the very beginning of issue 1. Um, so this is Alfred telling Bruce about the history of the Waynes and how they met the L family and how all this shit has gone down. Um I enjoyed it for what it was
Mhm.
until that part. And I will say this, it has been done before. There is another comic out there that has done kind of the exact same thing, but without uh the other the green thing, if you will, and we'll get to that
Yeah.
later. Um, but the other aspect of it has been done before. And I will shout that out when we talk about it. But
Yeah. So,
I I I understood where they were going for, and like
mhm.
you only have so much to play around with when making your own story
Yeah.
in within the confines of a DC Comics Elseworld. So
Yeah.
I get it.
I am going to go out on a limb here and say I wasn't a fan of this issue. And the reason why is I think Tom Taylor played it too safe. And he could have went way more Game of Thrones here and he didn't. So the story in this book was we got to find out about like the elves crashing in, right? Like they lived a quiet little life. They had a little cottage. They killed bears with their hands and shit because they're elves. They can do whatever the fuck they want. And they were raising cow. And what ends up happening is there's a volcano in the vicinity, and they think the world is going to explode. And they're like, "Hey, we can save people, but we got to go let the kingdom know." And so they're like, "Hey, he wears a red mask, what Jor-El does, and he's like, give this to the Waynes, like some dangerous going to happen. The person that gets this message is Luther." And he's all like, "How'd you get in
And
here?" And
I
he's like, "Just
told you he was gonna be some sort of advisor. Like I
yeah."
knew that they were gonna be doing that route.
Yeah. So what ends up happening is he ends up tearing up the message and he's like, I'm not going to give it to them. These people are crazy. Well, the thing is about to erupt and the elves are like, Wayne, why haven't you evacuated? What's going on? He's like, who the hell are you? Why are you here? And Luther's like, get him out of here, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, the thing's about to explode. And he was like, and then I think Luther was saying all this shit about like, we know that there's issues and the gods or whatever. He's like, you
Oh,
believe in this bullshit, the
he was
stars?
like, yeah, Luther said, "Oh, we referenced the stars, and Jarrell was like, "You reference balls of gas?
Yeah.
Like, are you a fucking idiot? Like, why would
Yeah.
you do that?"
So what ends up happening is this thing explodes, this volcano explodes, and it's gonna kill everybody. And everybody's freaking out, and they try to stab the elves with spears, and the spears all break because they're fucking Men of Steel. And what ends up happening is like, we can save them, we can save y'all. And the Waynes are like, go do it. And then what's the mom's name? Martha. Martha?
Uh,
No,
uh,
not
uh,
Martha.
Laura.
Jor-El's wife, Nora. She's all like, I just need you to protect something. We'll protect you. You need to protect something of mine. So she gives the baby Cal over to her, and they go save the whole universe, and they go save the kingdom. And everybody's like, yeah, they're awesome. They're great. Luther's banished. He goes and he finds a green rock that explodes around him, and he's never seen again until the day the Waynes are killed. And everybody's praising the elves, and this is where I started to not like this book. And it's because we already knew that there was like an affair or something that happened, right? Like we already know that Bruce is, part L and all this kind of bullshit. But I didn't like the story of like, oh, it was just one night and they fell in love or whatever, and then they just made a mistake and they hurt everybody around them. Like, if you're writing a story about Game of Thrones ish in the DC universe, just fucking go full Game of Thrones. Like, get one of these people to be pissed. Like, I wouldn't have mind. Like, we're already getting all these bad Thomas Wayne stories.
See,
Make Thomas
and I
Wayne
was
go
gonna make
crazy.
the I was gonna make the argument of like, oh, maybe they didn't want to go that far because these are technically still IP characters,
Yeah,
but
which
like,
is stupid.
which is very stupid. We've talked about that before. But like at the same time, like I can't have that argument when they're making Thomas and Martha Wayne like possible like bad people in like one of their probably biggest movies that is about to come out. Like I don't know why they decided to do this.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, so and then it goes off this whole thing that Thomas was upset, but seeing Bruce grow up made him change his mind. And granted, there are men out there that are able to put that aside and be just bigger men and raise a kid, and I applaud those kind of men out there. I don't know if I could personally like, be with somebody and raise somebody else's kid when my wife cheated on me. You know what I mean? I don't think I'm that big enough
I'm
of a
king,
man.
you are now banished.
Yeah, like I just don't know if I'm that big of a man. You know what I mean? Because like that's cheating's fucking terrible. Like who would want to go through that?
Yeah.
And anyways, and then they all just like live happily ever after. Like, oh yeah, our best friend, my best friend fucked my wife. They're having a kid, but I'm gonna raise it. Like, like at this point, I would have much rather, even though it could have been something that might have been predictable. I would have rather had the families fighting each other. I would have rather had the elves take over the kingdom by force, by threat. Like, and granted, maybe the reason why they didn't go full Game of Thrones is because they didn't want to be like, oh yeah, Jor-El took advantage of Martha Wayne. You know what I
Well,
mean?
maybe all of that Game of Thrones stuff is gonna be for the current characters instead of the parents of them all. You know?
But like it's still like I don't know. I don't think it's good enough. Like because you still had like you're just making Bruce the bastard to be the bastard, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I would have much rather had like if you would have done this like if you would have had maybe another child be born that maybe Nora left for a while because she was upset or whatever. Not Nora. No, wait, what the fuck happened here? Yeah, wait, Nora. Yeah, if Nora would have been upset, she should have maybe left for a while, right? Like she was like, I can't be with you. I can't believe you did that. You know what I mean? And left, but she ended up hooking up with Thomas and they have their own kid?
Laura, not Nora.
Laura, yeah, whatever. Laura, if she would have like hooked up with Thomas out of but we find out that he couldn't bear children. So like, okay, so that makes it okay. He couldn't bear children. So yeah, hey, fuck my wife. It's cool. Um like my thing is just like it would have been better if they would have played that story. You know what I mean? Like they have a kid out of spite, and this kid is gonna rise to defeat this other kid. You know what I mean? Like add more layers to the story, but I don't like that they're trying to be wholesome here and like try to make something happen. Like I don't know, I just didn't fucking buy it. I didn't like it. I was just like whatever. And then, then we have these scenes of the kids growing up together and all this shit. And that is when we see the Waynes in a carriage get zapped by this crazy beam of light. We see a freaking lantern ring with a Joker smile, and it turns out to be Luther is the Joker with a Green Lantern ring. And
This
I told
is
Clay
not
this.
new.
Yeah. And I told Clay, because Clay came to my live stream yesterday. He was like, "You're not gonna like Dark Knights of Steel." And I was like, "Oh God." I was like, "What's gonna happen? Bruce is gonna
What were
go
you
like Super
expecting?
Saiyan
What were you
with." Yeah.
expecting after
I
I
was
said that?
expecting like something Bruce like with Superman powers, or like maybe Bruce gets these Superman powers but then gets fucking destroyed and killed. Like they meant nothing, which would have been even worse. Like if he would have been killed and he had these Superman powers. But I wasn't this doesn't surprise me at all. This doesn't surprise me at all. But I had the biggest fucking eye roll ever. Like I saw the back of my skull because like it was so I could not believe it. I was like it and I told you this, Clay. I was like these books are going really good, but they can go to shit really quickly. And so this is on a downturn. This is like the stock market for me right now. It's red. So we'll see what happens, man. But what we end
Now,
up seeing happen, go for it.
oh, I was gonna say, I completely forgot that this household has a
A
landline.
d
So
an
there's a
actual
freaking
landline.
phone like
Yeah,
just
you hear that
ringing,
in
and
the
I'm
background.
like, holy
They
shit.
have we're getting a caller on Batman News Weekly. What do you want to talk about? Yeah.
No, but the story that is also does this is
Yeah.
a story called Superman Speeding Bullets, where Superman is found by Thomas and Martha Wayne.
Yeah.
He is named Bruce. He lives the life of Bruce Wayne, and LexCorp is in Gotham.
Yeah.
Lex Luthor is actually the Joker in that
Mhm.
story. So it has been done before. Adding the Green Lantern element to it is weird
Yeah.
because like you have to have like the idea of having a Green Lantern ring means that the Green Lantern ring chose them, and they have to have like this
They're supposed to
abundance
be
of
good, right?
will that
Yeah.
is able to fight off fear.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really sound like Luther or the Joker.
Yeah. Yeah, I just like I said, I rolled my eyes and I had already started to lose interest at that point. I mean, I was already losing interest because of what was going on with the whole Wayne stuff. And then we, of course, in her dying breath, Martha's like, "I want you guys to take over the kingdom. Everybody loves you, and you have to keep Bruce a secret because nobody will accept a bastard. But they'll accept aliens from outer space to be their villains just because they saved them one time, but they won't accept a kid that has been there." Like he's half alien and half human. I would accept him more than the aliens.
I
Like,
I don't understand it either. Did they say that Thomas died? Because he
I
chases
mean,
after doesn't he chase after
no,
the
but
Joker?
Thomas is a human. Why would he chase after him? He's a
Like
human.
when the
That's
purge.
Jor-El
Oh,
that
really?
chases after um
Okay.
cuz how would Thomas chase after
I thought he
Joker?
like jumped on a horse and like ran
No, no,
away.
he's literally flying through the air. He's all Luther.
Nice.
It's Jor-El. No, I think there's a burnt body and Jor-El's like Thomas and it's like burnt to a crisp.
Damn.
Yeah. So and then you see Alfred picking up Bruce, and he's like, "Oh, he's okay, he's okay." And I think maybe that's when he finds out about everything, or maybe he already knows. But yeah, she says that y'all should become the kings and queens or whatever. And then it ends with like Bruce kind of talking to Alfred and everything like that. And he's like, "Do you have a plan?" And he's like, "No." He's like, "But I have a king." And so I guess Alfred is taking over everything. What I want to see now is because this is going on a downturn for me. I want to see a double turn or a turn on something now. I want to see either Bruce to try to take back his kingdom now that he knows the truth and be like, it was always rightfully mine. Like, I'm not going to be a bastard anymore. I am king. And I want to either see him do that or I want to see, like, I don't know. I need something dramatic to happen because I'm just not interested at the moment now.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I want to see some betrayal. I want to see something like that because yeah, it's cool with Supergirl, but we never got to really see like she's been, as far as we know, a bitch the whole time. But I want to see somebody that was good turn, and that's what I was kind of hoping with the Waynes or Jor-El or there, whatever. You know, like we get this cookie cutter vision of them, but this is Game of Thronesy type content, and there's always betrayal back then, right? Like it's not like today where people are constantly monitored and have bodyguards and all this crazy stuff. Like back in these days, it was easy to kill people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, here's some poison in your drink. Oh, you're dead. Now we're gonna fight for the fucking kingdom. I need something like that, and I just think that, maybe they got involved with Tom Taylor here, which wouldn't make any sense because it has nothing to do with canon. It's an Elseworld story. I just feel like he played a little safe here. And that's kind of what happens with Tom Taylor in these Elseworlds. That he usually has a great concept, and then there's just that one issue that's, you know. Um, but it had to be Joker, right? Like it just
Hmm.
had to fucking
Yeah,
be
it
Joker.
had to be.
Like
Hey, at least
there's
it
so
wasn't
many
the
Batman villains.
it wasn't the dragon that you were like worried that it
Yeah, I
might have
mean,
been.
that would have been ridiculous, but, like, I don't know. So now does this mean that that's how Luther and Harley are probably gonna have a connection because they both worked for the Waynes? Is that gonna be the new
Yeesh.
thing? Like, but then again, I would think Harley is supposed to be a lot younger, so she would be probably Bruce's age.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know, but I could see this going downhill pretty fast. So, we'll see. We'll see. But that was Dark Knights of Steel number 4. Moving on to Detective. Did you feel like much came out of this issue?
No, because I have found so many flaws in this story now.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about that.
So the big reveal of last issue was that the Psycho Pirate was the one running everything, or at
Yes.
least running everybody's uh, thoughts as
Hmm.
far as the inmates at Arkham Tower. We find out in this issue that it's all a con.
Yeah.
Dr. Ware is not even a doctor. He's an old friend of Psycho Pirate. They are
Yeah.
running a con to get rich. They know nothing about the system when it comes to, you know, imprisoning somebody, getting them help, nothing. There is no credentials showing that they know what the hell they're doing because
Yeah.
Psycho Pirate's just doing it all. And you're like, how can you prove that? Well, it proves it here when Psycho Pirate is literally struggling to control everything within his willpower. He is like
Yeah.
popping pills and drinking energy drinks just to stay awake long enough to be able to do everything all the time.
Yeah.
Like I I feel like that is so dumb. Like if you had people who at least knew what they were doing along with Psycho Pirate,
Hmm.
I can kind of believe this. But now you're telling me, "Oh, these random people that were just friends with Psycho Pirate. Hey, let's convince all of Gotham and all of the world
Yeah.
that we can run a mental institution for Arkham."
Yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
even for comics, a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, I think if they would have done like a smaller sample sizing, like if they had a small clinic with a couple like bad heroes or bad villains or something like that that they were controlling, I think that would have been more plausible. But yeah, figuring out that it is just like a big con was kind of just like weird. Um,
It's weird on the scale of what this story is supposed to be. Shadow of
yeah,
the Bat, Batman's gone, like everything's going to shit. Like this no longer feels like that big of an issue. Now, I understand you have a bottle of some of the worst criminals now about to like just go all loose on everybody. Like,
yeah,
yeah, that is going to go to shit really quick, but like it doesn't feel as big of a scale anymore knowing, oh, it's just a couple of Joe Schmoes and Psycho Pirate.
yeah. Yeah, I don't understand. Like, are they even using the title of Shadow of the Bat on this?
I believe so at the very
Oh
front
yeah, it's
of
called
the
Shadow of the Bat, Batman Detectives, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it has nothing to do. Like, I don't understand why they're even using that title. to be honest.
Well, it's because Batman isn't a part of this story. Like it is only the Bat family that is, running reconnaissance and
Yeah.
all of that here. Now, there is a big part of the story that I was just like, what the fuck?
Mhm.
How does this individual know Dick Grayson is Robin or was Robin?
Yeah, I saw that too. The freaking scissor girl, right?
Yeah, the one
Yeah.
that likes to cut people. She says, "I remember you, you little baby bat boy. Do you remember me?"
Yeah, I don't know, because they have not shown that anywhere.
Mm-mm.
So, and then we see Helena, like, she's in her therapy session, and then she fucking goes out and beats the shit out of that one redheaded dude. Um, but she's like, I have to remember. So I don't know what she's trying to remember here.
I think the notion is that Psycho Pirate was like submitting their emotions so hard that like
Hmm.
it literally feels like they're waking up from some like a fever dream.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense. So I wonder if Psycho Pirate was feeling all the pain that what's her name was feeling then as well.
Hmm.
So yeah, because he ends up like falling asleep or something like that, or like crashing out. And he's like, "Oh, what the fuck?" And then Doctor Ware's like, "Oh, you gotta put them all to sleep." So he ends up making them all go to sleep, and that's the way the issue ends. Um, yeah, kind of a weird issue, and I don't understand why the Bat family hasn't rushed in there yet. Even though they were talking to Grayson, but he was like, he kind of told him to hold up, but
He
at this
basically
point,
said, "Oh, if everybody comes in here now, it'll basically just cause more chaos." I'm like,
yeah,
"Dude, you have an entire facility full of insane criminals.
yeah.
It's already chaos."
Yeah, so I'm interested to see where this is gonna go now because we already know where gets thrown out the window, which they didn't need to show that. Like, I
Yeah.
don't understand why we're still going backwards in time with this story, but yeah, I feel like this was another again a down issue. I was on board at the end of that last issue. I was like, "Oh fuck, Psycho Pirate, that's gonna be dope." I mean, I don't think it was a terrible issue, but yeah, there are a lot of things you can definitely question, like you said. So
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Then we have the end story that we've been covering a lot. Really enjoyed this. The kid is in Arkham now, which is, or I guess he was always in Arkham, right?
Yeah, he was always in Arkham, but of course, there has been some time that has gone past because we didn't get to see how Bruce slash Batman was able to cure him from the poison. So there
Yep.
there is a little bit of a time gap, but all of these inmates are like, "Oh man, such a big day for you, man! I'm so proud of you. This is great." And they're like,
Yeah.
and he's like, "What are y'all talking about?" And he ends up getting adopted,
Yeah.
basically, from Arkham, which is a very odd way to spin things. But he gets adopted by Penguin
Yeah.
and basically gets adopted just to be a worker.
Yep. Hey man, that's how you get around stuff in America, right? We need workers. They're gonna be here forever. Let's adopt some. Yeah, this was pretty crazy. So the interesting thing was though, the way Penguin treats him, he's like, "You're gonna work, but your time is your time. I'm not gonna, you've been cooped up long enough. I'm gonna give you an advance on your paycheck." He was like, "You can actually shower here. You can sleep here." He was like, "You can pee in that bucket." He's like, "I'm just joking. There's restrooms and showers down there, but do not go in them when the girls are there, or they'll get mad." And then he was like, "But he was like, we work at 11. Get the hell out of here, go enjoy Gotham while you're free." And so we see the kid eating ice cream. He goes and buys a freaking dinosaur. He's eating popcorn and he's walking through the streets of Gotham and he gets his head smashed in against the wall. And the kid's like, this one random dude is like, "You must be new around here or whatever because this is my territory." And he's essentially going to stomp on this kid. And Penguin comes out of nowhere and he's all like, "Oh, he works for me." And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Penguin." And he's like, "You should probably tell me that on your knees and kiss the ground while you're telling me that." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, sure, sure, sure." And he's like, "All right, kid, this is your decision. What do you want to do?" And he's like, "I want to let him go." And he's like, "Okay." And then Penguin stomps on this dude's head, essentially
Basically,
killing him.
curb
Yeah,
stomp, killing him,
yeah.
and he goes, "Oh, this is a very good lesson for you, kid. It's to learn you don't get what you want all the time."
Yeah. And I was like, damn. But I am enjoying this story because it is what you would expect in Gotham, right? Like Batman can't be everywhere. He can't help everybody because he could have, yes, he could have easily adopted this kid, but he tried to put him in an orphanage and it didn't work.
Well, like
And like,
the whole thing about most of like the low time criminals, not necessarily big time like psychopaths that Batman
yeah,
fights, is like, oh, Batman, you don't understand like what we're going through here in Gotham and blah 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 blah. And that is
yeah,
why Bruce's motivation is to make a better Gotham. Like,
yes.
so it totally makes sense that there's gonna be kids like this individual that kind of have to grow up like this.
Yeah. And I think it's a really good story to tell through the eyes of a kid that ends up teaming up with all of these bad villains and just learning life through them because when they essentially these kids are going to be the next wave of people that Batman has to fight, right? Like
Yeah.
so it's a pretty interesting story and I'm really enjoying that backstory. So that was cool. I probably enjoyed it more than Detective to be honest. So it is what it is. But
Oh
let's
yeah, I
go on
think
to
so.
the last book of the week, which is Batman 120. Now, we know at the end of the last issue, Batman lost his eyesight and he was like, I'm essentially blind as a bat, right?
Yeah.
And we knew he was bleeding out. So this issue starts off with our female cop friend having Batman in a body bag, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I got a freaking Abyss here. I'm gonna take him to Luther's place." And the other cops are like, "Oh, I'm glad you're being a team player now." And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And she puts him in a police van, and then he rips out of the bag because I guess he couldn't breathe. And she's all like, "What kind of world would body bags like be if you could there was a zipper on the inside?" And and he's just all like, she's asking him like, "How are my eyes?" And he's saying that he was like, "I need to go somewhere where it's dark because I need to check out my eyes." And she's like, "I know a place." And so as she's taking him to whatever this place is, we fast forward to Luther, and he's in his Luther Tower, wherever they're at in this. I forget what part of the world they're in. Um, but he is showing off all of this tech he has, and then the lights go out, similar to the way they went with Batman, and Luther knows it's Abyss already. And he was all like, "Oh, you know what, Abyss? I had this thing made in case Batman was going to go ahead and join the team, but I'll use it for myself." And he turns on this like glowing bat suit and he uses it to fight Abyss. And all we see is Abyss try to attack him from behind. And it cuts back to Batman talking to the girl. And how did you think? What were your thoughts on Batman explaining what he thinks is happening to him with like the maybe like a nano chip in his brain or something like that? What did you think of that?
It's very odd. Like, I think I'm okay with it just for the fact that like we know that like Bruce's body is basically a temple. He
Yeah,
knows his body inside and out. And so I think in the same way, like there has been issues in comics as well as episodes in the one of the other animated series called The Batman, where
yeah,
like Batman will know when somebody is like invading his mind
hmm,
from like a telepath. Like he has
yeah,
trained his body to know that invasion. So like I think it's okay for him to question like, okay, this isn't normal. This isn't something that my body is used to a point of saying, "Hey, I know what this infection is," or "Hey, I know what is doing this." So he has to then question, okay, what is something that has not been done to my body
yeah,
that it wouldn't recognize? Okay, probably nanotech, probably this, probably that. So I do like those points. It's very
hmm,
subtle. It doesn't necessarily like explain it to you, but for somebody who would know Batman,
yeah.
you can make that those assumptions, and I think it's safe to make those assumptions.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's like this little conversation between them where she's all like, "Do you have somebody you can call?" And he kind of stays silent. She's like, "Oh, you have people, you just don't want to call them. You don't want to ask for help." She's like, "I know how that is." And she kind of goes and kind of we get a little bit of backstory about her and why she's kind of going after Abyss because her parents disappeared. And she was like, "But you probably know all that because you would have searched me up or whatever." And then he talks about he's like, "I need to talk to Batman Inc." And she's like, "They're in Luther's prison. It's like they're probably in solitary. It's like super confined. Like it's impossible to get in there." and he's just like, I need you to help me. And so she ends up, Batman goes, they're moving Batman Inc. to a secure location. She ends up somehow being able to turn out the lights, help Batman. Batman shows up. They think it's Abyss, and Batman's all like, "No, this is my move." And he starts talking about like he's like, "Get to the roof. We're gonna talk. You're gonna help me be Batman Inc." And for some reason, all of them are being little bitches. And they're like, "We're not gonna help you, Batman. Like, why the hell?" He's like, "We've worked together before. Like, we can do this." And they're kind of giving off the vibe like, this is our case, like we don't need your help. And they also think that Abyss is like dead. They're like, we killed Abyss or whatever, and he's like, no, Abyss is alive, you guys are innocent. And one of them is just really not a fan of Batman, and he even tries to attack him. And they get into this fight, and Bruce is telling what's her name to shut up because she's talking in his ear, and he's able to catch one of the dude's legs and throw him across the room. He's like, stop this, talk to me, why would you work with Luther? And then, of course, the firing squad comes in. They start shooting up the place, and they all make it to the roof. And one of them knocks out Batman as they're running. And this is when we find out that Luther made them an offer. Luther shows up to the top of the thing with his bat suit, and he's talking about how, like, why are you doing this, Luther? Like, what's the point? And I got really confused here. So is Luther Abyss? Like, I was so confused.
I think I was also confused about this because it made it seem like possibly Abyss did something to Luthor
Yeah.
that made it to where Batman could see him.
Uh-huh.
But I do think Abyss and Luthor are separate because the very last page shows that the Batman Inc. guys are like, "Oh, you got it all wrong, Batman.
Yeah.
Luthor may be the one that owns Batman Incorporated, but Abyss is our boss." And I was like, "What the
Yeah.
fuck is this?" Like,
So, thoughts on that?
I don't like it. Like, I feel like there's gonna be like this like this thing with Abyss, like, oh well, I'm gonna share my ideas and my ideals and tell you how you guys are basically doing it all wrong, and I'm
Mhm.
the better Batman, quote unquote. This
Yeah.
is like I don't want to shit all over it because we haven't seen it, and so far Williamson has done really well. But we have also, one thing that we forgot to do. I just now
Mhm.
realized we forgot to do listener questions. So
Oh,
uh,
shit. We
there,
can
I
do that
believe, is
still.
two on YouTube. So guys, if you're still listening, we apologize. Maybe we can make an announcement at the very beginning of this. But we're gonna do listener questions after comics.
Yeah.
Um, but we've really enjoyed Williamson, and so like we have also said that Williamson's writing can go to crap really quickly. So like I'm hoping this isn't the moment where it goes to crap, but I was just about to
Yeah.
say this feels like a moment of like Ghostmaker. Like, oh, I was able to convince
Ye
these people that I'm the better Batman and my ideals are better and we're going to fight against Batman.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that, which would be a story that's been told a billion times. Yeah, I don't know. I will say that it's not my favorite thing because you're turning Batman Inc. people into being okay with killing.
Yeah,
Um,
that's another thing that like these guys were chosen by Batman because of uh their likeness to the character of Batman anyway, and their
yeah.
sense of justice, their sense of being able to relate. And so for them to be easily swayed to work for
Mhm.
Abyss, as so it seems, I don't know if I like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if it is turns out to be like nanotech and they're being controlled, I guess you can get away with that. But it's kind of a cop out in my opinion. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not a fan of this whole like good guys like yeah, let's kill now. You know what I mean? Because I feel like that's kind of hard to come back from. You know, that kind of mindset. Because then what do you do after that? Like, are all these heroes just scrubbed from Batman Inc? But or it has to be like mind control or some bullshit, right? That they're under like some nanotech shit that he was talking about. So yeah, we'll see, man. I don't know. I didn't like. it's not like the worst thing I fucking read. I feel like if I were to go back and read like a lot of Tynion stuff, I'd be like, ugh, give me this Williamson ending over anything else. You know what I mean? But I'm intrigued to see where it goes. But yeah, I would say it was kind of weird that they're like they want to kill Luther now. Because he's funding that. Like I just don't. I'm interested to see where it's going to go. I'll say that because I want to
Yeah.
know why Luther would fund them, but then they're going to try to kill Luther. So makes no sense to me. Also, when the fuck are we going to get off this Batman not having money thing? Like it doesn't like nothing has hindered him, in my opinion. He's still doing crazy Batman shit, and like I just don't like the idea that, oh, he doesn't have money. But he's still doing some shit that normal people could not do without anything. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why he just doesn't have his fucking money. It's because we're trying to tell this Lucius story still, moving to New York and all this bullshit. Like, I don't know.
I don't know. Like if well, no, because I don't think Lucius is moving to New York. I think it's only Jace.
Oh.
Because I
Well,
was
then
about to
give him his
say
money back.
if Lucius and the entire family was moving to New
Hmm.
York, then Bruce and Batman need to go back to New York. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I
Gotham.
think that needs to happen. Yeah, sorry, Gotham. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Hopefully that's something else Williamson, works out. I want to know like how far Williamson's roadmap is because if he's only doing one issue a month, like when are we going to get the Batman and Robin shit that he was like kind of promising?
Well,
So,
it looks like oh shit, what was the title of that freaking crossover he was talking about?
oh, that
Um
one with Deathstroke or whatever
yeah, hold on. Let's see here.
is I hope that's not the freaking story and then we're getting the Abyss on top of that, depending on how long the Abyss story is going to go for.
He has a preview, or not a preview. He has a picture on, I think it was Twitter. He's doing a whole
Mhm.
bunch of Robin stuff, blah blah blah.
Yeah, Robin's going downhill.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that. We actually have a statement from one of our viewers though about
Okay,
that.
right here, right here. Shadow War is coming in March.
It's got a fucking war, 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 war. Everything's got to be a fucking war. Shit. Anyways, but yeah, that's it for comic books. We are gonna do listener questions if you are still here with the podcast. We missed this. It's something I didn't write down because I felt like we had a lot of other stuff to talk about. But let's go ahead and jump over to the listener questions that we do have on our last podcast. Again, if you guys have never dropped a question before, you can go over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, and if you listen over there, it helps out the channel, and also it's the best place to leave your questions. But we have Kid Stu saying, I still somewhat enjoy Robin because I love Damien, but I also with Clay that I don't really care. I just don't give a shit about the plot or the villain. Uh, Pretty disappointing, but I'm continuing to read out of love for Damien and to see his character grow. So not really a question, but an interesting take on what we were
Yeah,
talking about.
and that's really why I'm wanting to follow the comic because there were moments in what Williamson has written that
Yeah.
we enjoyed. And so I think he can like bring parts of the story to really stick with the character. And I'm like, cool. That is now a part of Damien's history as far
Mhm.
as like that one moment that I really loved. For
Yeah.
both of us, it was the batons that Nightwing gave him. Like
Yeah.
we will always remember that now, and I think that is really awesome. So like
Yeah.
if there's moments like that, I'm still willing to read.
Yeah, I mean, I'll still like skim it. Sorry, I have the yawns, ladies and gentlemen. We're recording super early compared to what we normally do. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely some cool moments, but like I said, I can very easily roll my eyes at a comic book. Like, just as I did with Steel, I wasn't a big fan of that. Robin did that when there was this big ass fucking green monster that came out of nowhere. Because like I think you could have done like a mummy in a normal sized body that would have been fighting Damien would have been more believable to me because it's like a dead person
Then
being
the
resurrected.
Lazarus monster.
Yeah, but you have this fucking huge demon monster. I'm like, come on. But you know what? Maybe that's just me wanting Robin to be grounded. Who knows? Maybe I want Robin to be grounded. But anyways, we got it one from Red Hood. It's kind of a long one. It says, "How, when, why did you start falling in love with Batman, Juice and Clay? How, when, why did you start falling in love with Superman?" Okay, so I think this is separate questions for us.
Well,
I asked
he says
Clay.
here, he says, I asked Clay a different question because I remember correctly. I believe he likes Superman more. So mine
Yes.
is for Superman, yours is for Batman. But he does say, but if Clayton also wants to answer for the other question, then go for it.
Yeah. And then, is there a question in this big paragraph? By the way, I saw you guys were reading Deathstroke Inc. So, are you guys going to keep picking it up? I'm only asking that because Deathstroke Inc. number 7 is going to lead into the Shadow War crossover. I think we're going to be doing the crossover, but I don't think we're going to go back and cover those books or anything like
I
that. We
mean,
just
if
covered the main.
anything, what we'll do is we have been given the opportunity graciously by DC that we get all of these books in advance,
Yeah.
review copies. And we will always be looking over things. That's why we covered the last issue, is because I think that moment is going to lead into whatever he's going to do in Deathstroke 7, because
Yeah.
I don't think what had I don't think what will happen in 7 would have
Mhm.
happened if this past issue hadn't have happened, you know? So I think
Yeah,
it's the small little dominoes that are falling, and so that's why I wanted to mention it in our last episode.
for sure.
So we will always, like, because there's another book. What is it? The world, the Arkham City of the World, or whatever it's called. We looked into it, we didn't want to
Yeah.
read it. So
Yeah.
we
The
will
first
always
issue
be
sucked.
looking into Batman related comics. And if they are good enough to talk about, we will definitely talk about them. Or if they're at least the number one that we're looking into, we can then say, hey, we read it, we didn't enjoy it, we're not going to pick up the rest. You know?
Yeah, so he does have another part where he kind of just lays out how like Shadow War Alpha is going to do the thing where he does the unforgivable, all that kind of jazz. Just essentially saying like what we should read if we are going to cover it.
Ah, okay, okay.
But so do you want to go ahead and answer why you fell in love with Superman and Batman if you have that as
Yeah,
well?
so I'll go with Superman first. I was basically raised to love Superman. My dad was a huge Superman fan and still is a huge Superman fan. He has like a whole like shrine room that is all Superman merchandise. Um, uh, Toys, candies, anything, freaking vinyls, t-shirts, anything that has the Superman symbol on it. My dad has purchased it before. And so growing up, he showed me the Superman the animated series. He, took me to go to see eventually, back in 2006 we went to go see Superman Returns. Before that, we saw all the Superman movies, we watched the Justice League. Like, he basically showed me, hey, this is your guy. And I fell in
Yeah.
love with Superman. I would read like the little children's books of Superman comics and stuff like that. So that is why I really enjoyed Superman. I think I fell in love with Superman, as far as like him being my favorite character, was reading most of these comics where, like, well, actually I think it was a novel. It was the adaptation of Death of Superman, the novel.
Hmm.
And there's a moment in there where he saves John Henry Irons, and the way he saves him is at a construction site. And the way that John Henry Irons basically explains it, and John Henry Irons, for people who don't know, is Steel. He does eventually become Steel because Superman saved him, and
Hmm.
influenced him to become a hero. And like the way John describes it was like, oh, I was just living my day, and all of a sudden this happened, and then I was saved by Superman. Like, it wasn't this like giant event that was going on,
Yeah.
and Superman had to save him. But because it was just a normal day, this unfortunate event like happened, he was saved. And that just small event inspired John Henry Irons, when Superman finally did die, to be like, yeah, I need to pick up the cape, I need to save people. Like,
Mm.
just to give that inspiration to people, I thought was really, really cool. And those were the moments that I absolutely loved. And it's really funny because Batman has the line in Infinite Crisis, "Oh, the only inspiration you've ever given to people was when you were dead." Like,
Yeah.
it's such a hardcore line, but like it has so much truth to it, and I thought that was really really funny.
Yeah.
Batman. Um, I think I started to fall in love with Batman with the animated series that came out in the 2000s, The Batman. That's
Mm.
when I started to enjoy the character. I used to have, and I think I still do somewhere, the VHSs of the Batman the Animated Series with Kevin Conroy. Like, I have
Okay.
all those still, but I really didn't start to be like, hey, I really enjoy this character as the Batman character until that animated series.
Yeah.
And then whenever it came to comics, I really didn't read anything until this podcast. Until I started working with Juice, and he was like, "You've never read in its entirety Snyder's Batman run? You need to read that now."
Hmm.
And I think it was like a week, and I had read all of it. And
Yeah.
then Juice was like, "Oh yeah, I think I should read that too." And so we were kind of bouncing off of different ideas of what we think like would make a really cool Batman in Tom King's run later on, and all this other stuff. Like I think that is also what gave me a lot of influence. This podcast, really.
Yeah. For sure. As for me, I don't know if there's like one moment that I can pin back on that I'm like, oh my god, like this is why I love Batman, or this is when I started loving Batman. I think it was one of those gradual things. Like when I was just a kid, I remember watching the animated series on TV and just being like, and I'm talking about the OG one that I say is the best Batman source material. And it would just always be on, you know what I mean? Like after school or on Saturdays or whatever. And so I remember that. And the weird thing is I never like, because when I was growing up, like I was super into Pokemon, I was super into Power Rangers, and like that was the stuff I remember growing up on. I don't think I ever told my mom or anybody that I was like, I want to be Batman for Halloween or I want to be Joker. Like I don't ever remember seeing that. I was definitely a Power Ranger for Halloween one time. I bought a lot of Pokemon shirts and cards. So yeah, it was never like he was never this like a phase for me. I think he was just always something I liked and I thought was cool. And I would watch the movies and stuff on TV and whatnot. I think we might have had the DVDs. I'm not too sure like when I started watching those. And like I didn't even watch Batman Begins in theaters. Like I still remember that. Like a Batman movie came out and I was like, "Oh, cool." I saw the Dark Knight in theaters, but I didn't watch Batman Begins. And I was just like, "Okay." But at the time, I remember when I was around 18, 19, I was dating this girl, and I must have talked about Batman or at least been into Batman. Maybe I was playing the games. I don't really remember, but she started buying me Batman stuff. And she was actually like, I would buy a graphic novel here and there just to read it, but she was the one that started buying me like loose leaf comics. She went to like half price books or something like that and bought me like a shitload of random just issues that had like cool art on them. And one of them had like a cool ivy on it. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Then I went with her the next time to go to go look at the books. And I ended up buying almost the entire series of Detective. What is that? Fuck. Gotham PD, that one. Gotham Central.
Yeah.
And I almost got like the whole thing. And I was like, wow, I almost have the whole thing. This is crazy. And I was like, what if I start? And then at that point, too, like, I don't think I opened up a sub box or anything until I was already way out of that relationship. But I would start buying graphic novels because we would go Barnes and Noble a lot because she liked to buy books and stuff. So I'd be like, oh, let me just go to the comic section. And that's when I was buying random shit like Final Crisis and just anything that looked cool with Batman in it. And I was like, all right. And so I just started reading a bunch of random shit. And then I finally read Hush at some point, and maybe that is when I fell in love with Batman. The idea that this normal dude in a bat suit could fight Superman, I was like, whoa, that's fucking nuts. And maybe that's it. Maybe that's why I love Hush so much, is because when I read that book, I saw Batman bigger than this normal crime fighter. Like he was this dude that could do extraordinary things, but he was just a normal guy. And which is probably why I'll never like the grounded argument or the realistic thing. It's like, bro, come on, let him do fucking crazier stuff. Like that's what's amazing about him. And so yeah, I think that's probably what it is. And then I just kept reading more and more Batman. And at some point, I was like, I've always wanted to be a writer. As early as the fourth grade, I remember wanting to write shit. So I think it just grew like realistically. I'm like, I love this character. I can learn how to write comic books. I know a lot about them. Like, why not write some Batman shit? That'd be kind of cool. I would love to write some Batman shit. That'd be awesome. And I think that's just kind of how it morphed into loving Batman. So, and then of course, like I was a growing boy, and Batman had some of the hottest villains. And I'm not even talking about the guys. I'm talking about the girls. Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, Catwoman. Why wouldn't I read these books? So I'm just like, yeah, awesome.
I also
So,
want to go ahead and say, just because you mentioned it, in this month's solicits, February 2022, so you can go to your local comic book shop right now, go to the back wherever the comics are, and ask for the DC solicitation magazine. You can see that Gotham Central Omnibus is being re-released. Of course, this is
ooh,
in preparation for the Batman coming out, and of course the still technically much rumored Gotham Central TV show that has still
yeah.
not had any updates whatsoever. Um, it is being re-released at the price of $100. Its
Oof.
official release will be, I believe, in March. No, it says April 12th.
Mm,
So like right after the movie comes out. So you can start your pre-orders now though. So
nice.
if your local comic book shop does like payments on pre-orders and stuff, you can always start it now and then pay the rest off later. Just want to let people know that because this book was very popular. It will probably sell out fairly quickly. So go check that out.
Yeah, I think we covered it during the pandemic episodes, right? When there was no
Yes.
comics.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely go check those episodes out if you want to hear our thoughts, because I think we covered it over like 2 or 3 episodes.
We
So
covered it in, I believe, 2. We did 1 through
yeah.
12 and then 12 through 24, or 13 through
Yeah.
24.
So just go look at those. They'll say Gotham Central on it, I'm pretty sure, unless there was some big news that came out that week, which I doubt. Unless it might have been one of the pandemic. There, I know I made a freaking Batman with a bunch of COVID things around it, so it could be one of those issues. I did a lot of random designs back then, but that's gonna be it for this episode, ladies and gentlemen. Clay, what do you got going on this week?
So this week, of course, I am still gonna be in this house until Tuesday is my official move-in date for the other apartment. But by then, you will be able to see me in, I believe, DC Alliance. We're gonna be covering, of course, episode 6 of Peacemaker, just like we did here. We'll talk some more, of course, just overall DC stuff. We'll probably talk about the weirdness of Ezra Miller has been lately. Of course, there is going to
We
be
didn't
an
talk about that.
yeah, no, his whole thing about Batman or Ben Affleck might be working on because like, did you even get to see the picture that he?
No, I just
Okay,
saw somebody post some shit about it in Reddit, and I'm like, oh, this is making the
it's
rounds now.
it's so I think it's Ezra Miller screenshotted a article from like Screen Rant or Games Radar or something
Yeah.
that basically said Ben Affleck's uh interpretation of Batman for the last time, and he underlined for the last time, and like
Mhm.
just wrote in big letters, ha 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 ha.
Uh-huh.
Um, so people are like, see, like they're saying that he's implying that it's not going to be his last time.
Yeah.
But we will see, I guess. Um, but I
Oh
also have
god.
an episode of Ranger Alliance coming out next Monday, so go check that out over at the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. Um, I am pretty sure I'm gonna still have to talk to some people, but I too may also be getting, just like you, a editing job, but more so on the audio aspects of things.
Oh, nice.
So that is looking to be very nice. And I think that is it for now.
It's just like a side gig on top of your current job?
Yeah. Until
Nice.
it starts to like really start to kick off, then I'll just be like, no more leaving the house, just editing on my computer.
Yeah, it's interesting. My weekends are essentially that job now. So, although I have the ability to get ahead, which is kind of cool. So if I need to take a weekend off, I can just do 2 videos in a weekend and turn them in if I need to.
Nice.
So that's kind of cool. But I mean, I'm kind of ahead this week, so I might actually try to work on 2 more videos to get even further ahead. Just so I don't ever want to miss a deadline. So I was told him, I was like, yo, can I stockpile just in case I need to take a weekend or two off? He's like, yeah, sure. So that's pretty cool. But as for me, ladies and gentlemen, I've been posting on both of my man. It blows my mind how much content I've been making lately. Like
You
I
have been
genuinely,
spitting it out, man.
yeah. So I've been dropping 5 videos a week on the reaction channel, a minimum of 3 videos a week on the gaming channel, and I've been posting every single day since January 1st a Ludwig video because I'm trying to get this guy to notice me. And we're on day 33. I've been posting those on TikTok, but there's a lot of shit going on with TikTok right now, and I think I'm gonna jump off the platform and just like shit post on there every once in a while. The payout system sucks over there. The algorithm sucks over there, and it's like there's a lot of people talking about like how shitty TikTok is for creators. So I think I'm just going to start posting everything on my YouTube Shorts channel now because they pay out slightly better, not the best, but they pay out slightly better than TikTok. And I'm trying to get people to jump to my other channels anyways, so it's just best to post shit on there because people on TikTok don't leave TikTok. They just stay there and they hardly ever jump to another platform, so it is what it is. But yeah, I've been posting a lot. If you are a fan of spicy content, I highly suggest you go check out my videos on the gaming channel because I'm going to be doubling down and posting even more spicier content. I don't think I told you this, Clay. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I was playing. I've been posting my uncensored content on YouTube, but as private. And YouTube finally found them and fucking dinged me with a content warning that could give me a strike and delete my channel. Um, but
Oh,
this
fuck.
is on a secondary channel that doesn't matter if it got deleted. So it's not like my main ones that I'm like have monetized or anything like that. And I did that purposely because I knew I could get content striked. So right now I'm having to find a new home for the content. I was gonna go to Vimo or whatever that other platform because I've seen other people share stuff on Vimo before and they're like okay with like nudity here and there, but they were like, it can't be explicit. I'm like, well, some of these games are fucking explicit. So it's possible that I could get kicked off Vimo too. And then I was like, well, fuck,
Juice
where
is
do I
about
go
to make a
now?
Pornhub.
Without, dude, I genuinely thought about it. I was like, am I gonna have to do that? I was like, that would fucking that would be crazy. And I was like, man, that might deter people because you can't just go to watch those videos. Like, you don't want to open that up. Like if you're just fucking, just walking down the street or something like that. And I was just like, huh. But I see a lot of people that do like the R34 videos and stuff like that. The freaking godsends that are out there doing God's work. I've seen them use mega upload or mega download or some
Oh, yeah,
bullshit like
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because you can like stream videos too. Like you can actually not have to download it, but watch the video from there. So I'm testing out both right now. They have both free trials, so I'm running essentially both of them at the same time to see if I'll be able to find a new home since YouTube is like, no, 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 we can't do that here. So get the fuck out.
Nice.
So that's going to be an interesting next week or two to see if I get kicked off either of those sites. So, because I might have to make a hub account. So I'll be like, all right, fuck it, with this account's getting out there. Um, but anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for this podcast. As always, he is Fanboy Clay. I am Juice Wayne, and remember, Batman is awesome.
News Weekly.